My name is Judy Florian. I'm Vice President for Voter Services in Grosse Pointe, League of Women Voters of Grosse Pointe. And I'm pleased to welcome our candidates and those of you that are attending this evening. This is a combined candidate forum for Michigan House Representatives Districts 1 and 2. We have indicated on their name tents the district, the number, so that you know which district is being represented. I want to extend a special thanks to the League of Women Voters in Detroit for co-sponsoring this event with us, to Wayne County Community College District for the use of this wonderful facility, to Sue Acton of the League, who has secured all volunteers for this event,
Good job, Sue.
to Steve Garrissey from SKG Digital Designs for recording the forum.
Yay.
The recording will be available to be viewed on both the Detroit and Grosse Pointe League's Facebook pages and websites. As I indicated, this forum is for the Michigan Reps District 1 and 2 for the primary election, which will be held on Tuesday, August 7th. And it's being filmed for the use of both Grosse Pointe and the Detroit Leagues. So I ask that you please now turn your cell phones on silent or turn them off so we won't have any distractions. We have league members that have index cards and pencils on which you can write your questions. Please return them to one volunteer, our volunteers, so you can submit them to our question sorters who are sitting up here in the front. If you have a card and you can't find a volunteer, just raise your hand slightly and they'll be happy. They're in the back. And they'll be happy to pick them up for you. I'd like to introduce the following league members who are serving in the following roles. Deb Sloss is our timekeeper. Over here, Deb, raise your hand. Okay. Question sorters, Joanne Kelly and Carol Todd. Here in front. Question gatherers, Marge Frudel, Wilhelmina Giblin, Peggy Hickey, Mary Jo Johnson, and George McMullen.
Yay.
Question gatherers, raise your hands so they know who you are. Okay, great. I'd like to introduce Tom Wells, the president of the League of Women Voters of Grosse Pointe. Tom?
Yay. Welcome, everyone. The League of Women Voters is a national organization whose mission is to promote political responsibility through informed and active participation of citizens in government. The League neither endorses nor opposes candidates or political parties. We welcome anyone, male or female, 16 years or older, to membership. Our moderator for the evening, Rhonda Craig, president of the League of Women Voters of Detroit, will outline the format of the evening and introduce the candidates. Rhonda?
Good evening. The format for this forum has been established by the League of Women Voters of Grosse Pointe and Detroit. The format was received and reviewed by all candidates prior to the forum. All candidates for the Michigan House of Representatives, Districts 1 and 2, were invited to participate in this forum. The following candidates are present. District 1, which includes the east parts of Detroit, Harbor Woods, Grosse Pointe Woods, and Village of Grosse Pointe Shores. Mark Corcoran, okay. Gregory Cresswell, Tanisha Yancey. District 2, which includes west parts of Detroit, Grosse Pointe Park, Grosse Pointe, and Grosse Pointe Farms. Willie Bell, Letitia Johnson, John Polfie, Joseph Tate, and Carla Tinsley Smith. Each candidate will have an opportunity to make an opening statement not to exceed 2 minutes. The order has been determined by drawing lots just prior to this forum. The timer will hold up a card to demonstrate 30 seconds. Indicates 30 seconds remaining, and a card indicating stop when the time has expired. Following their opening statements, the candidates will be answering written questions from the audience. These questions may be addressed to a specific candidate or may be for all candidates. The question gatherers will circulate through the audience with cards and pencils. They will pick up the written questions and deliver them to the question sorters. The sorters will review the questions for redundancy and for slanderous content. As moderator, I reserve the right to close discussion on a question. At the end of the question period, each candidate will have the opportunity to make a 2-minute closing statement in reverse order of the opening statement. Audience, you may begin to write your questions. I will remind you that there are to be no comments from the floor during this forum and ask that the audience refrain from applauding until the end of the forum. We will now begin with the candidates' opening statements. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes. Mr. Corcoran.
Yes, my name is Mark Corcoran. I'm here because I just don't like the way the country's going. I truly believe there is a good, there is an evil. Think about it for a second. What is the definition of good? Is our country heading in that direction? Do you really believe in the Constitution? I really do. I believe that our rights come from our Creator, and we are leaving that behind. I believe that freedom isn't just some word that means that we can do whatever we want whenever we feel like it. I believe that I should have the right to work and give my money or put my money where I think it should be, not give it all to the government and have them take care of me and give me a bed and a house and clothes and food. To me, that's slavery. I lived in foreign countries. I lived in Central America. The difference between us is I can take the fruit of my work and the sweat, and I don't give it to my master so that he can provide for me. And we have gotten this idea in the United States that the government can demand us to get all this car insurance so that lawyers can sue themselves, sue with the laws they make, so they can make money. That we are forced to give our government, and they decide who's poor and who gives us the money. We're paying more and more taxes every year. And what are we getting for it? Our roads are a mess. Detroit has voted for the same people, for Dingo and these liberals that are supposedly helping the poor. And what have they done for the city of Detroit? What have they done for us? The people are worse off. I want to be able to be free to give my money to who I want to be, not to give it to the government and let it filter through their hands. And I'm from a working class. I'm a contractor. I work every day, 10, 12 hours a day. I've been working since I've been 14 years old.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Corcoran.
Good evening. My name is Joe Tate. I'm a Democrat and I'm running for state representative in House District 2. I come from a family of servants. My father was a firefighter and my mom was a public school teacher in Detroit. And growing up, they embedded in me not only the value of service, but also of sacrifice. Now, initially that led me into athletics, working together in teams, where I was fortunate enough to earn a scholarship to play football collegiately, as well as professionally in the NFL. But more importantly, it led me to serve my country in the military. I ended up serving as an officer in the Marine Corps. I was stationed in Hawaii, which is a terrible place to go, if you've ever been. But I also did 2 deployments to Afghanistan, where I provided security in our area of operations, as well as provided tools for economic development for the local Afghans in the area, such as bridges and wells. That ended up allowing me to move into the role that I currently serve in at the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, where I help Detroit-based small businesses, suppliers, grow their contract volume, and in turn grow their revenue, which in turn grows their jobs. For me, going back to service, this is why I'm doing this. I want to be able to focus on the community, and talking to residents, I've learned that, and I know that it is about the community. So whether we're focusing on education, revenue sharing, infrastructure, auto insurance, the focus always has to be around the community. Again, my name is Joe Tate, and I look forward to taking any of your questions. Thank you.
Mr. Bell.
Good evening. I'm Willie Bell, candidate for State Rep District 2. In 1966, I raised my right hand and served my country in the U.S. Army. In 1971, I raised my right hand again to serve the Detroit Police Department, and I served 32 years in the city of Detroit. Not just in law enforcement, but community, youth, and all that involvement as law enforcement. In 2014, I raised my hand again to serve as a police commissioner, who would be the eyes and ears and oversight and supervision of the Detroit Police Department. I serve in that capacity now. I understand the issues across the borders, whether it be in the points or Detroit. I have interacted with you in a long period of time. I have 3 generations in my family that live in Detroit. My grandkids, my daughters, and me, my wife. So I know the issue, I have the concern. The concern primarily in this nation, as you well know, we can't make our schools safe. It's public safety. When you talk about the issues of people young at heart, I hear your concerns too. When you talk about homeowners, I hear your concerns too. When you talk about veterans, I hear your concerns too. People have sacrificed to live in Detroit. We want the same quality of life that's in the United States of America that we're entitled to. That's why I'm running. I'm still active, I'm still engaged. And sometimes I'm disappointed with our elected officials, and young people have been disappointed also in conveying that to me. That's why I'm still involved, and I want to serve in that capacity at a higher level. I've been working with Chief Craig and Mayor Duggan in terms of public safety, but our concern is much greater and just public safety. That's why I'm running, and I'm Willie Bell, candidate for State Rep, District 2. Thank you.
I'm a lifelong Detroiter. Been married to Charlotte Custer since 1982, and she is the mother of our children. I graduated from Chancey High School in 1975. I've been with my employer since 1975. Sorry about that. I'm running because our car insurance is too damn high. As a proud libertarian, we are a party that defends individual rights in the free market. We believe that taxation is theft. When politicians can live throughout every day to find ways to confiscate our income, to confiscate our property, it tells us that we don't live in a complete free society. We libertarians believe in reducing the power and control and access to our income and property. It's the best method to freedom. When both major parties can find ways to confiscate our income, like the pension tax passed by the Republican Party, the Democrats who believe that we should not have the right to defend ourselves by hampering our Second Amendment rights, it should send chills through your body because what they want to do is control our lives. As libertarians, we believe that what you own belongs to you and nobody else. Not the next door neighbor, a company, a country, or a politician. When you see that the school budget is growing and every other budget grows, it means that they are charging us more for fees, taxes, license permits, and regulations. I'm Greg Cresswell, lifelong libertarian, and we'll stop.
Good evening, everyone. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the Women League of Voters for having this forum tonight, and I really appreciate all of you for coming out. It shows that you're truly engaged and you care about what's going on in your community. And like you, that is why I am running for state representative of the 2nd House District. Again, Carla Tinsley Smith, about a year and a half ago, I said before you all. And the unfortunate part about it is a lot of the same concerns that we had 2 years ago, we still have today. Our education system needs to be improved. Our communities need to be improved, and we are lacking workforce development training opportunities for people to get good paying jobs to take care of their families. A lot has changed for me personally since that time, because I'm now the proud mother of an 11-month-old. And when I look at him, and I look at all the kids even in this room right here, I know that we have got to do better. We have to do better not only for the generations that are here, but the generations to come. I'm excited about this opportunity. I'm excited about the opportunity to be your voice in Lansing, to take your concerns. We all have our personal biases and things like that, but at the end of the day, as a representative, I am representing you. I am taking your issues to Lansing and fighting for them day in and day out. And not only in Lansing, but here on the ground level. You'll know me, you'll see me, I'll be accessible to you. Again, I'm excited about the opportunity. Carla Tinsley Smith, I care, I listen, and I'm ready to work for you. Thank you.
Mr. Falvey.
Hi, my name is John Falvey, Republican running in the 2nd District. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on and for everybody for attending. My experience in the public, academic, and private sector distinguishes me from, I think, most of the opponents at my table. I have nearly 40 years experience as an investment banker and small business advisor. I've been a publisher of a community newspaper, and I've taught and teach business, economic, and public policy at Wayne State University and Walsh College. Importantly, I also have significant experience in publishing public policy at the highest levels of the federal government. President Reagan appointed me to the #3 position in the largest lending agency of the federal government. I served as Dan Quayle's chief economist, writing tax reform legislation, and working on all aspects of the federal budget. As the Walker Fellow at the Heritage Foundation, I advised Congress, senators, and the White House on budget, tax, and banking policy, and met my wife, Carla. I am especially passionate about education. It's an issue in which my family has unique and broad experience. Between my daughters, my wife, Carla, and myself, we have worked at public, private, and charter schools. We've worked as administrators, counselors, and teachers, and at all levels of education, from first grade through post-graduate school. Education is the foundation of a good voter, a good citizen, and most importantly, to a good economy, to earning a prosperous living. We can no longer deny this opportunity to our urban youth. We owe it to them and to our economy and our country to fix this problem. Fundamental to the success of the 2nd District is immediate development of the Far East Side of Detroit. Housing, business, jobs, and schools. I intend on exercising all my private and public experience and network to this most critical cause. Thank you for attending, and please express your interest in having League of Women Voters host a Democrat versus Republican forum after the primary.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
Good evening, everyone. I am Letitia Johnson, Democrat for State Rep House District 2. I am a true product of the city of Detroit. I grew up in a low-income household. I am the 5th of 8 children. I, unfortunately, am the first within my family to obtain a college degree, but I recognize it was because of the support of my siblings and because of the support of teachers and other individuals in my life. I went on to get a finance degree from the University of Michigan. Professionally, I worked for 10 years in the hospitality and tourism industry, negotiating $1 million contracts to bring conventions to the city of Detroit. Over the last 10 years, I have spent a lot of time volunteering in our communities. I've been a community leader in East English Village for the last 11 years. I have served on the Board of Zoning Appeals for the City of Detroit, which is a legislative role. And I currently serve on the board of the 5th Precinct Police Community Relations Council, in addition to running a nonprofit organization for Morningside, East English Village, and Cornerstone. So I have certainly put my time in and will continue to support our communities. I haven't just talked about it, I've done it. I've been an AmeriCorps member for 2 years, from 2015 until 2017. And so the reason I decided to run is because I'd like to address some of the oppressive policies that we see coming down in Lansing that have impacted families the way they impacted me when I was a child. I look forward to sharing more about my experience with you all. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Ms. Yancey.
Thank you. I would first of all like to thank you all for spending your time with us this evening. My name is Tanisha Yancey. I am the state representative for District 1, and I am running for re-election. I just won the election last year. I was sitting right here before you all just a year ago, and time has flown by. I won in a special election, which was in November, and started serving right away in November. So it's been approximately 6 or 7 months since I've been serving as a legislator. Prior to becoming a state representative, I know that there has been people who have come to me and said that they don't like politicians. And I say, oh, that's good, because I'm not a politician, I'm a public servant. I've been a public servant for over 13 years. I've worked in Wayne County. Prior to being a state representative, I was a Wayne County assistant prosecutor, a prosecuting attorney in the juvenile division. I wanted to go to juvenile because I feel that our youth need to understand that if they make mistakes, as I have in the past, there is still hope to changing things around and doing things better. And that is exactly what I did. I not only became a licensed attorney, I became a prosecuting attorney. Prior to that, I was in Wayne County in different capacities for the past 13 years prior to the, 12 years prior to the prosecutor's office. I served in the Wayne County Nuisance Abatement Program, where we filed lawsuits against dilapidated property owners. I would love to see that program come back. I am running for re-election to continue what I've already begun. I've introduced bills thus far to promote and to help our educators. And we also need to do something about our revenue sharing so that our counties, such as Wayne County, can have a program like nuisance abatement. Thank you.
We will now go to the written questions from the audience. There are question gatherers in the aisles that will be happy to take your questions to the sorters. For questions directed to all candidates, each has up to 1 minute to respond. For any questions that are directed to a particular candidate, that candidate will have 90 seconds to respond. The other candidates have the option to respond to the same question and have up to 1 minute to do so. Okay, this first question will go again to Mr. Corcoran. We'll go first to Mr. Corcoran. And this is a combination question regarding car insurance. Do you plan to write, introduce, or to sponsor legislation to bring Michigan car insurance rates in line with other states? And the other question involving car insurance is, no-fault law provides for unlimited medical coverage. No other state has this. It has become very expensive. What can be done to control costs? Mr. Corcoran.
I would really like to see our freedom to choose what kind of insurance we want for our cars and not let the lawyers and the people in Lansing choose. If I want to get an insurance that covers less, I should have that choice in a free society. When I was 16 years old, I paid $16 a month for car insurance. Now a kid can't even afford to buy it, to get to work and back unless he's on his parents. He can't afford to drive a junker car. We have to put a cap on what these lawyers can sue for. And we gotta bring freedom back into our hands to choose the kind of insurance that we want to buy on our car and not let Lansing and the state demand what we pay for car insurance. It's out of hand. And who's making the money? Anybody here making money off all these lawsuits? Not me. My kids can barely pay for their car insurance. And what happens if they get caught, like many people in the city of Detroit, these young people get caught without having car insurance, then they really can't afford it. And then they get in that spiral where they're criminals because they can't afford car insurance. Is that a free society? I'm just a working man. But I have a little bit of common sense that we don't need all this car insurance, and it should be up to you and me if we want to buy all this car insurance. Is that outrageous? Is that crazy? Where's the common sense in our government nowadays?
Thank you. To answer your question is, for me, the answers to the tests are already there. So there's a package of bills that's sitting in the legislature, House Bills 5101 to 5111. Please, I encourage you all to take a look at this. That already look to address reducing auto insurance, car insurance costs. So we're looking at proposing fee schedules. We have Medicare, Medicaid, workers' comp that already has fee schedules set up. Why doesn't our auto insurance have it? Looking at non-driving factors as well. You have states like California, Hawaii, Massachusetts that have already banned credit scores when it comes to auto insurance, looking into that. Why do we still have that? Looking at the Michigan Catastrophic Claims Authority, why don't we make that more transparent? And we can because the legislature was the one that created the Catastrophic Claims Authority. So I truly believe that we have this opportunity here.
We all know the issues, and people are making a choice every day. They started with 90 days, 30 days, 7 days, and no insurance. We impacted by this insurance matter. As you know, Mayor Duggan campaigned on that issue. The state representative, the state senator representing Detroit are completely divided on this issue. And how can we come together? That so many people cannot vote in Detroit because their cars are insured out of the city of Detroit. This is the reality. We must come together because we all impacted by that. These billboards that's there now outlining the rates. I don't know if it's accurate or not, but we must come together to try to resolve this issue. And I'm not going to stand here and say that Willie Bell can resolve that issue. It takes a collective effort, and unfortunately, we don't have collective effort anymore. We don't work together to come together to solve problems, and we need to. Thank you.
As a libertarian, the best solution is to repeal the no-fault law. I have in my hand the mandates that forces us to have in our car insurance. The best way again is to repeal the no-fault law and then allow us to purchase the insurance across state lines. All the fees, taxes, license, permits, and regulations attached to the insurance industry is the reason why it's so high. Repeal the no-fault law and let the individual determine what is best for them, for themselves and for their family. I contacted Indiana AAA, Illinois, and Ohio myself. Now, based on my age, I would be paying less than $50 a month premium if I lived in those 3 states. Repeal the no-fault law and put the blame squarely on the politicians that keep it going. We must repeal the no-fault law. That's it.
Yes, so we all, I think we can go on and on all day about, the car insurance. We all know it's too high. We all know that there's something that needs to be done. And there is a package of bills up in Lansing right now that I do think address the issue. I am 100% on board with. We need options. Right now, I know someone very personally close to me that was in a catastrophic car accident, right? So he's now a paraplegic. Under the current law, he would be taken care of and things would be fine. He's working, but there's still some auxiliary situations that these people that have these injuries need to be taken care of. So I definitely think options are crucial into this auto insurance conversation. and something needs to be done, it needs to be done quick. We are divided on the issue, but at the end of the day, I know that hopefully if you get some good people up in Lansing, we'll get a resolution and get our insurance rates lower.
Thank you. Whether it's health insurance or auto insurance, we should allow individuals to get insurance across state lines. That would help in both aspects, so I agree with that. We need to get rid of redlining and credit scoring that discriminates against Detroit. That will help lower rates. We do need to come to some tort reform and limit the lawsuits that inflate the cost of medical insurance and auto insurance. We need transparency in the accident fund, and we do need to limit the generous benefits of no fault. Those benefits cause significant moral hazard. It causes insurers to spend and spend and spend. And we also need to, as previously mentioned, make sure that the fee schedules for accidents and medical insurance in the auto industry are in line with other health insurance, because right now the auto insurance industry is getting away with excessive fees.
Thank you. I think we all agree that we need to see a reduction in cost for car insurance. There is, as previously indicated, legislation that has been presented in the House that would address territorial ratings, credit scores, zip codes, age, gender, things of that nature. It also creates a commission, if you will, to oversee fraudulent claims, because that is one of the things that drives the rates in the city of Detroit and the surrounding area. It will also provide for cost containment. We've seen several hospitals that have come forward and agreed to reduce their costs if the auto insurance companies would reduce their costs. We have not seen that. So definitely would support that legislation, and there are ways within that legislation that can manage costs.
I am not in favor of opening up the insurance to where you can purchase across state lines. I don't believe that it builds a better Michigan. I believe that it takes money out of from Michigan businesses and Michigan families. So if we want to build a better Michigan, we need to keep our businesses and our people here employed. However, I have co-sponsored a bill that will eliminate non-driving factors in our insurance. It will eliminate use of gender. It will eliminate use of marital status. One thing that it does not eliminate and it does not touch on, which we were hoping to have an amendment have an amendment later that people can agree with, which is eliminating zip codes, because that's ultimately what we need to do. I believe someone said if they lived in another state, it would be cheaper. Of course, the zip codes are different.
With this next question, we will start with Mr. Tate. And that question is regarding charter schools. What is good about charter schools and what needs to change? This is for all candidates.
I think there are a few things that need to change with charter schools. First off, I think our funding system overall needs to be overhauled. So there's a group that's already done a study around how much it actually costs to educate a child, regardless of transportation costs, food services. The number is pegged at a base at $9,500. Currently, we're spending, the last budget was anywhere from the range from $7,800 to $8,300. So I think first and foremost, we need to focus on how are we funding our school systems. And we need to keep that in line as far as holding accountable charter schools the same to public schools. So I think first and foremost, when it comes to all of our education, is having the same standard across the board, whether you're a public charter school or whether you're a traditional public school.
It's unfortunate charter school is a poster child for the education system. and been outlined that we have more parents attending charter schools in Detroit versus public schools. My concern would be less address education overall and hold charter schools to the same criteria as public schools. And then therefore we have accountability whether it be charter, public, or private. We want quality education for all our children. And as you well know, well-to-do parents or parents who want to sacrifice are going to send their kids to cross town, beyond the city limit, whatever it takes, just like going to college. We witness that. In my own family, we have to make a decision. And we make a decision at an early age now. So let's not really attack charter school. Let's see how we can look at the ones that are working, and the ones that are not working. Let's address those concerns. The same accountability. Thank you.
As a person in a party who supports the free market and individual rights, we believe in privatizing the education system. Get politicians out of the education business. Removing the coercion that politicians have for parents to tell you where you must send your child, what time, how many times they go to school, etc., is not proof of individual rights. Privatize education, and those parents or that parent will decide what is the best education or the best school for them. Not some politician, not the Democrats or the Republicans, but the individuals, parents. Why should I have to pay for a corrupt, immoral system that confiscates my income and makes me pay for an immoral system? If I can keep all of my money, I can educate my children. My wife and I send our children to a Catholic school, but we still have to pay property taxes. That's wrong.
So without a doubt, I think that there needs to be a close examination of the charter school system. Now, one thing that we have to look at, parents send their children to charter schools because they want options. They didn't feel like the Detroit public school systems or whatever school system was doing their children justice. I understand the options, but at the end of the day, we need to have balanced standards. The unfortunate part about the charter system right now is that oftentimes we're passing kids through these grades and they can't read, they can't write, and as we continue to matriculate them, once they get out in the world, we have issues because we passed them along. So number one, I think that we need to really look at this and get funding and base that, or prioritize that rather, on outcomes. We need to look, what are the test scores? How are the children doing? If these schools aren't meeting their requirements, they need to close. We have to protect our children, and just sending them or looking at the latest fad in education, i.e. a charter school, we really need to focus on educating our children and having those balanced standards in place.
Okay, let's wait for permission. As I mentioned, my wife's a counselor in a public school. My oldest daughter's an administrator at a charter school in Denver, Colorado, recently named the best in the country. And my middle daughter is a teacher at a private school in Colorado. I think this question is backwards. The question should be valuing the change in the public schools. The sorry state of our schools just shackles our urban youth and is an absolute national disgrace, and it's going to be the demise of our future. Education is necessary to an educated voter, a civilized people, and most importantly, our economic future. And we're leaving an entire generation, especially of urban youth, behind. But it appears that Democrats just don't appreciate Thomas Edison's sage advice. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And that's all Democrats do. We need serious reform. I hope we come back to education because I have a lot to say about it. Charter schools have proven to provide better results than their public school peers, and to do so with substantially less results.
Charter schools in Detroit have not proven to provide a better quality of education for our kids. Charter schools have done one thing. They filled the void because we've seen so many of our neighborhood schools close. That's what they've done. What they have not done is they don't provide an education for special needs children. Most charter schools do not provide that. If you have a child that has a special need, where do you send them? I ran into a young lady during campaigning who took her 6-year-old child out of school because every other day she was receiving a phone call about her child's behavioral issues. We can't have that. Education is the most important service that we have to provide to our young people because it is the pathway to success and it opens up so many opportunities.
So I believe part of the question was what are charter schools doing right? And with anything, there are some good actors and bad actors. So I'm sure that there are charter schools who are providing good education or, the proper and adequate education for our children. However, I am definitely on board with Ms. Johnson here, not in Detroit and not in Harper Woods. There's a charter school that used to be Bishop Gallagher, for those of you who remember. I did attend there before graduating from Denby High School, but the charter has changed from one name to another name because they are not able to get the sponsorships that they need. And the reason that they aren't getting it is because they're not providing the education that is adequate for our children. So I would say also, if we are going to support charter schools, because that's where this is leading, to make sure that they're accountable to the special needs, make sure they're accountable for transportation and any other thing that publics are responsible for.
Mr. Corson.
Ms. Yancey's right. We're changing the public schools to the charter schools, and they're not really any different. I was just patching a kitchen ceiling today in a school teacher's house. She's quitting this fall. She will not return to the schools because all we're doing is teaching these kids how to pass tests to meet the state rules. We're not teaching these kids. We got to get these kids interested in school. If I could give you a choice, send your kid to any school you wanted to, I'll give you a voucher here. Average price $7,000, what we're charging these kids now. Take your kid to any school you want. I guarantee you that private school or whatever school you want will teach your kid to fix air conditioners. I hire these guys right now, they can't read a tape measure, they graduated from high school. The trades aren't even taught in the schools anymore. What are we doing? What do we do? We need to tear open, tip over the apple cart and change things drastically. Thank you.
All right, with this next question, we will start with Mr. Bell. And this is for all candidates, and it's regarding education, school. National data shows how woefully behind the Michigan education system has fallen. What do you plan to do to stimulate improvement and needed in the public schools? The other question is, if elected, what specific action will you take to ensure that public education is given adequate funding? And again, we'll start with Mr. Bell.
First of all, we must invest in our teachers. We must invest in our teachers. We must invest in our school system. In terms of the schools, we know in Detroit deteriorating. The overall restructuring of the school system, I'm pleased in terms of what's happening with the school superintendent and the board of education that's been elected by the people. Give them opportunity. We also must address the proper funding for public school. We must value public education, as you have been mentioned before. Public school take in all students. They address those concerns. So we are at the bottom in the nation in terms of education. How do we get there? We must rise up as parents. Parents must be parents in terms of interaction with the school system to address those concerns. Because we don't know the value. Thank you.
As stated earlier, I believe in privatizing the school system, period. Get government out of it. Don't allow politicians to tell you where you must send your child to school, how, what curriculum, or whole nine yards. Freedom is very important when it comes to the parents deciding what is best for their children. A solution, again, would be, for me, would be to defend and support free private scholarship to help those that need it. I think it's wrong for for me and my wife to have to pay property taxes for an immoral government school system that we despise. We had to pay property taxes for the government school system, and we also had to pay for them to go to Catholic school. Mr. Gallagher was one of them, and we love Mr. Gallagher, and our children were educated very, very well. But to have to force to pay for a government school system that we detest and despise, I think is wrong, and to use force is wrong.
So we all know that education is the foundation for success. Education got us all where we are here today. And we do have to do something when it comes to the budget and exactly how our schools are funded. I think it's disheartening when we look at the overall spending and we see that we're spending money on locking kids, or not kids, but we're spending more money in the penal system, and we're not actually sharing that money with generations or with individuals that could make our communities better. So I think we need to look at the revenue sharing and really invest more in our kids and invest more in education. And that also goes to teachers. There was at one point in time when you would ask someone what they want to do when they grew up, and they wanted to be a teacher. Well, our teachers are funded so poorly right now. No one wants to be a teacher because you have to go in these classrooms and interact with students, and it's a lot of pressure. So we have to make the teaching profession what it once was. The teachers literally, I remember some of my teachers now from elementary school, and so I think teachers is important. We really need to reallocate and look at how we're funding our schools.
Well, I think we all agree that reading and math scores in the state of Michigan are horrible, especially the lower grades. But the fact still remain that Michigan education spending is about average compared to the rest of the country, and our teachers' salaries are still well above average. So we need some serious reform. We need competition. Charter schools have proven to provide better results than public school peers with less resources. That's a fact. Competition breeds innovation, success, and allows parents to choose schools best suited to their children's needs. In the past, I proposed a voucher system for Detroit residents to attend any school in the city. Among the other benefits, this could help develop local schools and neighborhoods as charters and private schools invest in the city. In the end, failing schools, whether they're public, private, or charter, must be allowed to fail. Everybody wants charter schools to fail. Well, yeah, that's the point. If they don't succeed, they fail. The same should be true of public schools. In the classroom, we still pay our teachers.
So first we have to acknowledge and recognize that low-income children, on average, hear 300 words a day in comparison to kids from middle-income households who hear about 3,000 words a day. Our children are entering kindergarten behind, essentially. So we need to focus on early childhood learning and making sure that we have access to those learning facilities. In addition to the state focusing on infrastructure. The schools within the city of Detroit are so poorly maintained that they are just riding in the cane. We need to make sure that our teachers are adequately trained to be able to teach our children.
So I recently met with someone in Wayresa where the study was shared with me as well in terms of how much it costs to educate one child and how that cost goes up based on the child's needs. And this is not something that I was ignorant to prior to meeting. However, it just actually opened my eyes even more in terms of how much it costs to educate a child who's quadriplegic, for instance. That had never crossed my mind. So if we fund education or if we fund districts based on the needs of the child, then we will see an increase in their test scores, which test scores doesn't, in my opinion, don't really gauge how well a child is doing. I did not pass the bar the first time, but I did eventually. So test scores are not indicative of how a child is doing, first of all. So we need to stop with that altogether and start educating and start funding, including compensating our teachers based on the need of each child.
Kids, these young men are bored out of their mind. It's not, we don't need daycare for these kids before they're in kindergarten. That's not, I never went to preschool. We learned to tie our shoes, and we weren't reading and writing in kindergarten, and we did great. That's not the answer. We don't need babysitting these kids before they're in kindergarten. We're losing these kids, not in kindergarten and first grade and second grade. They're bored out of their minds by the time they're in junior high and high school, and they're dropping out in groves, these young men. And they're hyper, give them a pill. That's not the answer. The pill isn't the answer either. We need the voucher system. We need private enterprise. We need to get the government out of this. We really do.
A couple of points. First, I truly and strongly believe there isn't a market solution when it comes to educating our children. We have to be able to obviously direct and be strategic with our resources that we provide to our students and ensure that there aren't any wastes. But at the same time, we need to be able, we know that study after study shows the importance and the value of education. We should be able to fund and push and go in that direction. One other point. One of the things that I would like to focus on would be around the parents. There's a group called Detroit Parent Network in the city of Detroit that focuses on getting parents ready, teaching parents early literacy for their children. I think that's another direction that we need to focus on as far as investing to help with educational outcomes.
With this next question, we'll start with Mr. Cresswell. This question is for all candidates, and that is, what do you propose to do if elected to address gun violence in our state, and particularly the city of Detroit? What do you propose that both Democrats and Republicans can support to pass meaningful legislation to positively impact gun violence in our city and state? We'll start with Mr. Cresswell.
As a libertarian, we support constitutional care, Second Amendment, where individuals will be able to defend themselves against the scumbags of this state. We supported the Castle Doctrine law that was passed back in the 90s, where an individual did not have to run out the back door because some crook came through the front door, or some guy wanted to carjack us for our vehicle. We were allowed legally to defend ourselves and if need be kill the person trying to harm us. I also believe in a death penalty, where if a person is murdered, he would know, or she would know, that the individual would be executed after being convicted, not 5, not 20 years, 30 years, but within a good time period. So, death penalty and Second Amendment.
So we all know that the gun violence is a crucial issue. I believe it was actually just recently on the news where, or every other day we're seeing something about some illegal gun or some gun and some child or some parent, having a stray bullet come through their home. That has to stop. I do believe in one's right to carry, but I think that we need to really hunker down or bunker down on the restrictions. So I think we need to increase the age to obtain a gun and a license. I think there needs to be a waiting period. I shouldn't be able to just go into a store and walk out with a gun. That is asinine, and we're just asking for trouble. And then also, I think when it comes to the background checks, there are so many folks out here with mental illness, right? And mental illness, we need to do more in funding that. But when we look at that, that comes to guns as well. You know, so if I go in and I get a gun, in 5 minutes I'm out and I'm at some store, I'm in somebody's neighborhood, I'm a detriment to society. So background checks, increasing the age for the purchase of guns, and a waiting period.
Well, we've had guns around this country for a long time, probably as much as we have now. But gun control is a problem now, and I think a lot of that comes back to human behavior. So I go back to education as an important starting point. But I basically support the Second Amendment. I do believe we should enforce our laws better. We do need increased registration, increased waiting periods. We need to talk about mental checks, background checks. But basically, I would support the Second Amendment.
Thank you. I do support the Second Amendment as well, although of course we have seen a tremendous amount of gun violence throughout the city of Detroit. And I'd like to say that goes back to education and making sure that people are gainfully employed, making sure that people have access to good living wage jobs, because if you are an employed individual, you're less likely to go out and rob, kill, shoot someone trying to take their possessions, because you have your own way to obtain possessions. So I certainly would like to focus more on empowering people, and I think that will help to curb some of the gun violence that we see, because a lot of it occurs with gangs, with young people that have just essentially are off the radar, and we've left behind.
I've taken an oath to uphold the Constitution both as an attorney and as a state representative, so I am definitely in support of Second Amendment rights. However, that does not mean that anyone should have that right. If you are not a responsible gun owner, you should not have that right. If you have, I believe it was already stated, but if you have mental health disorders that will perhaps result in you using it unnecessarily and not in self-defense, you should not have that right. I also believe that our children who are, idle minds are the devil's workshop. They don't need all of this extra time on their hands. We need to have more recreation centers in our area. I remember as a child, I went to the inner city sub-center, and not only for me as a little child, but for those teenagers who were camp directors, we provided something for them to do.
Oh, here we go. Thanks.
How much of the crime in this country is related to drugs? Mr. Bell, is there a lot of, honestly, is there a lot of crime related to drugs? We're giving these kids drugs in elementary schools. Oh, your son needs a pill. He's hyperactive. And when these drug dealers get busted with drugs, what do? They get a slap on the hand, they get a tether, and they're out doing the same thing. And a lot of it, like I was said before, we've always had guns in this country. But the crime and the young men with nothing to do on their hands, the poor education, they don't have any skills when they get out of high school. They don't have any hope. It's not the guns, it's our society's breaking down and educating these kids and setting them in a good direction and stopping the crime. These kids are afraid to go to school sometimes without a gun in some of the schools.
Being combat deployed, a Marine Corps veteran, I've seen the effects of weapon systems on people. I'm sure people in the audience as well have felt the effects of gun violence here in Southeast Michigan. I've lost 2 cousins to gun violence. It's frankly an issue, and I don't want to take it this far, but it is a crisis. I mean, you compare this to when we look at safety around automobiles. Okay, when there's a spike, you look at all of the regulations that go into it, purchasing car insurance, having seatbelt laws. I look at it as the same way. Obviously, you do have a right to have a weapon system, a firearm in this state. But let's have those background checks and close those loops. Let's have legislation around red flags, red flag legislation. We need to be able to treat this like a crisis and focus on it for a time.
I am so frustrated to see mothers after mothers, family after family on TV pleading for closure, pleading for closure. I'm totally frustrated in terms of reality of gun violence, the school shootings, churches armed guards, schools armed guards. We are armed guard, and we still talk about the Second Amendment. It has nothing to do with assault weapons. Mr. Tate outlined, I'm a veteran, some of the veterans here, we know what assault weapon can do and what it's doing in our community. When they come in and sweep a room like this, they spewing bullets. And whosoever so concerned is in front of that, get that bullet. So the reality is that we have to do something, and we need to start now. We should not just continue to debate about the Second Amendment. It has nothing to do with the Second Amendment. It's about the reality of assault weapons. And we have a frustrated young people with dealing with issues of narcotic, etc. Thank you.
With this next question is for all the candidates. We'll start with Ms. Tinsley Smith. And that question is, the Detroit Free Press recently had an article stating that Michigan's population is aging faster than any other state. What are your priorities for this growing population?
Number one, I think we need to immediately repeal the Snyder pension tax. You know, people have worked years and years and put so much time and effort into our communities, only to get taxed unfavorably. So that is one thing that we really need to focus on. And I think, you know, I actually have a very dear friend that works in long-term care and with Citizen or with adults. And there are some issues when it comes to when we have these folks that are going into the hospital system. Let's say they're going into the emergency, and they have issues and they're leaving out with nowhere to go. When we talk about individuals, we don't only need to talk about those that are well off, but we need to look at those that are impoverished. When you go down to receiving hospital, you see the elderly or older folks that are just around there, and where are their families? You know, so we need to enact more legislation that can take care of the individuals that are going in and out of the system.
Mr. Kaufman?
Well, I'll be honest. I think that we need to focus, legislators need to focus on their special interests and their special expertise. And I honestly don't have much to contribute to this question.
So I will agree that we certainly need to repeal the pension tax. I have a finance degree, and when we talk about finance, we always encourage people to invest for retirement. So I spoke with a woman on the campaign trail who indicated to me that she started saving when she was in her 20s. She never touched the money. And once that pension tax went into effect, she had to go and get a job in her 70s because she just couldn't afford to live. Another thing that we need to focus on is as seniors get older, we need to help them age in place. And also recognize that with this pension tax in place, that it has thrown a number of seniors into poverty. And they may own their properties, but making sure that people are aware of the poverty tax exemption laws in the state of Michigan, and that so that they can stay in their home and be exempt or receive a reduction in their property tax for them to be able to continue living in our communities.
I'm sorry, I think I need the question repeated based on these answers. I have to have the question wrong.
The Detroit Free Press recently had an article stating that Michigan's population is aging faster than any other state. What are your priorities for this growing population?
The growing aging population?
Yes.
Okay. And I apologize, I thought you meant the growing population as a whole, but I will definitely be on board with repealing the pension tax. I believe that it doubles that taxation already. You've already paid the taxes, you should not be paying them again. I have a mother who has been retired since she was 37, because she had a stroke at 37 and another one at 38. And to watch her struggle to just make ends meet, on top of, and prior to the pension tax, she was already struggling, and that struggle has just intensified. So we do need to provide a way for our seniors to be able to, and not have to choose between grocery shopping and buying medication. So that would definitely be the top priority.
I also am against taxes. I can't believe I'm agreeing with some of my Democrat colleagues here. I'm against taxes. How many people can't even afford to stay in their house, even if the house is paid off, because they can't afford the property tax? Like I said at the beginning, the taxes keep going up, the pension taxes. They weren't supposed to be taxed on that when they started saving for their pensions. Why is it that these politicians never see a tax they didn't like? And another thing, that we want the young people to stay here, we need jobs. We need education, we need good schools, that these kids can learn trades so that they can stay here in this state. So taxes and keep these kids here, we keep the jobs here, we'll keep the kids here.
I believe some of the same solutions that are needed when it comes to individuals, our agents, our seniors, can be said across communities, across ages. So you look at when it comes to affordability. There are talks about pension tax. We also need to look at our property taxes. That's kind of the biggest tax we're looking at. Detroit has the highest property tax burden in the nation. You look at other comparable cities to that, it's like Bridgeport, Connecticut. So we have to find ways to be able to spread that property tax burden while still being able to provide the proper services, and also looking at social investments as well. This has already been discussed around, having and ensuring that we have rec centers, we have libraries, we have different areas where seniors can go to enjoy their quality of life, to have a good quality of life. So I think that's what we need to be able to focus on as well.
I think we all agree on this issue, that I don't know about the points, but I know that Troy, some seniors are on a life support system in terms of health care, housing care, the property tax, just being safe in the home, just transportation, recreational. They are struggling. And that's the reality that all of us should agree on. I think we agree that we need to address these people at young at heart. We need to do it like yesterday. And they are the lifeblood. I know just on my peers in law enforcement, we retired and we thought we had a great pension, a great medical plan that was altered under the emergency management overnight. We did not anticipate that. We had officers that were disabled, hurt in the line of duty. Their medical benefits changed. One is shot in the line of duty, injured in the line of duty. His spouse might not have that. We are now addressing those issues just on a public safety issue for our police and fire and EMS. Thank you.
May I please see the question again?
Detroit Free Press recently had an article stating that Michigan's population is aging faster than any other state. What are your priorities for this growing population?
I am not God, so there's nothing I can do about people getting old. Not one thing. To look to politicians to try and cease the aging population of this state or any other state or anywhere else is crazy. But I will do this though. If you check out our platform, libertarians believe that taxation is theft. We would make it easier to where your property would be taxed, your income would be taxed, your pension would be taxed. Both major parties, Democrats and Republicans, believe in taxing. Also, too, we believe in repealing all the fees, the license, the permits, the regulations that go along with a person who lives in this state. Democrats and Republicans believe in taking. We libertarians don't believe in that. We believe that what you own belongs to you, nobody else. Taxation is fair. And lastly, again, there's nothing I can do about people getting old. Nothing.
This will be our last question, and this question will first be addressed by Mr. Palfrey. And this question is, legislators don't work together. What steps will you take to work with Democratic and Republican peers across the aisle?
Well, who's working together in politics today? It's an absolute disgrace what's going on in this country. We're polarized beyond where we've ever been, and it's just becoming insane, incivil, irrational, and intolerant. And it's obvious at the national level on both sides, and I suspect it's come down to the state level. And all we can really do is start to respect the need for civil discourse, stop insulting personalities and people, and start working together rationally and talk about the issues and not all the crap that goes behind it. So I just think we need to have honest legislators who know the issues and who are willing to work across the aisle and respect their compatriots and stay away from personality issues and hateful and intolerant speech.
Thank you. I will agree. I think in pretty much any situation, it's always important to know and understand the person that you're dealing with. So definitely wanting to go in to get to know the legislators, understanding the differences between, or the values between Democrats and Republicans. But I think it boils down to knowing and understanding a person and what they represent and what they stand for, but also having negotiating skills to be able to negotiate win-win solutions with everyone. So making sure that, we communicate, we're open, and that we are working towards a win-win situation for everyone because we are so polarized today.
One of the first things I did when I became a legislator was to schedule appointments or meetings with a few of my colleagues from the other side. And that was the reason, so that I can build relationships, because I do understand who holds the gavel right now. And so it was funny because one of them just kept saying, so why did you want to meet with me again? You really just want to talk? You don't have anything you need? No, I don't have anything that I need right now. So in order for me to, I don't want to come to people and go to people when I need them. I want to build the relationships when I don't need them so that I have them when I do. And also just for them to have exposure. There's some people who may not have ever met a single black woman raising a child by themselves, and they don't understand what the struggle is. And so when they do things like take away or have work requirements for Medicaid, they don't understand how that can affect people who are not able to get 20 hours a week. They don't set their hours. I don't set my, who sets their hours unless they're a business owner?
I've been a delegate off and on for years, going back to the Bush administration. And I had many debates with some of the Bush people, because I was different views on some of the things. Daryl knows me, I've argued with the Trump supporter because I was a Ted Cruz supporter up in Lansing. I've debated with many Democrats, but I choose, because I have some belief in God, that I should love and treat every one of you in here like a brother and sister. But I will not compromise and walk across the aisle to do something I don't believe in my soul. So if you're looking for somebody that will compromise and do what I believe is compromising my moral integrity, I won't do it. I'm sorry. I'll debate and I'll argue and I'll talk with you, and I'll listen to your side, but I'm not gonna bend. I'm gonna try to do what's right for everybody.
I believe that there needs to be civil discourse when working in Lansing. So I think that's something that we all agree on. So looking to build relationships in the body, but also I would say up and down. So in House District 2, we cover 4 municipalities. We also cover Wayne County. We need to build relationships there as well. We also have a Congresswoman, Brenda Lawrence, who sits on the Skilled Trades Caucus. How much have we been talking about skilled trades and the need for that? By the way, she also sits on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee as well, too. How many conversations have we been having around infrastructure and our poor roads, our poor water systems, as well as communication systems? So as a legislator, you have to look across the legislature, but also as well down and up to find those solutions around how are we going to improve the quality of life for the residents in our district.
Thank you. To be honest with you, it's not working. It's not working. And we the people, we represent you. We need to come together. Across the aisles, across the city limits, and demand that we work together. Look at our roads. Look at our school. Look where we are today. Look at the gun issue. We are so divided. Black, white, red, and yellow. We must get past this dialogue. We must come together. I worked with 2 powerful men in the city of Detroit, Mayor Mike Duggan and Chief James Craig. They are very powerful, but we must come together and I have dialogue. I'm a team player. And we must compel ourselves to interact for the good of the order and peace and tranquility in our community. We must come together. Republicans and Democrats, we must come together.
As a libertarian, I'm here to tell you it's never going to happen unless one thing happens, and that is this. Their power and control and their access to our income is down to 0. Democrats and Republicans, the main goal is to retain or increase their power and control and access to our income. They don't believe in individual rights. They don't believe in the free market. They believe in micromanaging the markets. That's why you have the pension tax. They turn around, it's the tax this, tax that. I'm going to give you one example. This commission, to where this commission will draw the boundaries for lawmakers. Yeah. Read the petition. It says Democrats and Republicans, they guarantee 8 spots. Independents, nothing about libertarian or green parties. That system is going to be is rigged for the 2 major parties.
So at the end of the day, I think this is about us focusing on people, not politics. It is unfortunate the system that we live in. We do have 2 major parties. We always, that's just the system that we live in. But at the end of the day, I think that if we truly look at the need of the people and really explain that, it's important that we build alliances because we need to get things done. We see how things are going right now and they aren't getting done because we can't compromise or we aren't talking. So if we can do more of that, I think, our whole state would be in a much better situation. But again, at the end of the day, it's about focusing on people, not politics. It's not about a party. It's about the mom that can't afford food for her child. It's about the senior citizen that has rising prescription costs that they can't cover. Again, if we focus on people, not politics, we'll all be better off.
Thank you. We will end this segment with the candidates' closing statements, not to exceed 2 minutes. The order of presentation is now reversed. Ms. Yancey?
So again, my name is Tanisha Yancey. I'm the state representative for District 1. In the short period of time that I've been there, I've already begun building relationships that I need to build, not only within my party, but also on the other side. I've also co-sponsored and have introduced bills that will protect our teachers, to help to enhance their quality of life by providing stipends. Not only does it provide their quality of life by providing stipends, but it will provide a stipend to teachers who will mentor younger teachers. So that also ensures that younger teachers are being trained properly by more seasoned teachers that we're losing every single day. And so in a short period of time, I've accomplished a lot, but I do want to go back to Lansing to continue what I've started. I will continue to fight for our seniors as well as our revenue sharing and our education system as well. So Tanisha Yancey for District 1 State Representative.
Thank you all again for giving us the opportunity to be here. I am Letitia Johnson, Democratic candidate for State Representative in House District 2. I just want to remind you all that I think it's extremely important to identify someone who has the experience, being the voice of the people in the community and going to Lansing to champion issues on behalf of the people. I have, for the last 11 years, been the voice of the people in the community that I live in and now represent 2 additional communities. I worked with Grosse Pointe City Hall in addressing the Department of Public Works issue when they wanted to bring their DPW over to the city of Detroit. And while I wasn't necessarily excited about the outcome, the goal was to give the people a voice in making a decision on how that was going to move forward. So I have been steadfast in making sure that the voice of the people is always being taken into consideration, and that I have been a leader to move things forward and to move people forward. So I thank you again for your time. I would like to implore all of you to visit my website to learn a little bit more about me. It is www.letitiajohnson.com, my first and last name. So once again, I am running for a state rep in District 2. Thank you.
Mr. Paul.
Well, I worked for President Reagan, for Dan Quayle, the Heritage Foundation, and I'm absolutely shocked that I'm the 3rd most conservative person on this platform. Fortunately, the other 2 are running in the other district. So, my experience is in business, journalism, and public policy. I'm a policy wonk, so I want to take the opportunity to catch up on some substantive points we missed. Back to education, which I think we all agree is the most important issue for our national economy, and it's the largest expenditure of the state. We still pay our teachers well above average, but teacher pay is based solely on tenure, and that's grossly ineffective. So we are not getting good returns on our teacher pay. We need to enforce state mandates that already exist to implement merit pay based on performance and market demand for a teacher's discipline. Uncertified teachers have been successful at private schools for over a century. We should consider relaxing certification rules for public school teachers. Perhaps 5 years of private school experience should be ample proxy for certification. Innovation. In any industry, businesses need to increase productivity in order to succeed, and that requires technology. It's true of education. We need to leverage technology, such as more online courses, to make teachers, students, and buildings more productive. Socialization is still critical to early education, so I'm not talking about wholesale online classes, but there's a lot that can be integrated into the curriculum to free up teacher time and make students more productive. Accountability. Peter Drucker, a great management consultant, said, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. We absolutely need accountability. We need it in measurement and test scores, and we need it in students, teachers, and buildings, in private, public, and charter schools. Another issue of great importance to me is the East Side development. I can't imagine a higher local priority for the entire 2nd District than the redevelopment of the Jefferson, Alter Mac, Conner corridor. We need to immediately invest in this critically barren area. The reasons for investment are obvious. Originally downtown Detroit. What happened?
So this has been an awesome forum. Again, I appreciate everyone coming out. I am Carla Tinsley Smith, your candidate for state representative. At a very young age, I learned the importance of service. My grandfather pumped gas on Hazelwood and 3rd. My mother was a public servant for over 30 years, and my father was on the line at Chrysler. Service is in my DNA, and I am looking to continue that legacy in Lansing to serve you. I know that there's some very critical issues that we all face. Quality education, social justice issues, like housing, affordable housing, just so many issues, education, our communities, our neighborhoods. There's just some things that really hit me in my gut, and I know that you feel that same way when we look at kids that can't cross the street because folks are speeding. When we look at situations where folks are having these heavy artillery, and the gun violence, there's just so many things that we really need to improve upon. And I know with my compassion and my work ethic, I have a background in corporate communication. So I've been at the table, making the deals and getting things done. I'm excited about that. I have been involved in my community for over 20 years. I have a nonprofit organization where we help families to get better. We help families with their economic and social situations. So I see firsthand the issues that are going on. I am compassionate, I am a hard worker, and I'm excited about the opportunity to be your voice in Lansing. So again, I would encourage you to remember Carla Tinsley Smith. A year and a half ago, I was less than 15 votes from holding this seat. That was only because people understood our message, they felt my passion, and I'm hoping that you feel that again tonight and you take that to the box with you on August 7th. Carla Tinsley Smith, State Representative. Thank you.
Hi, again, my name is... Oh, I'm sorry.
The reason I'm running for office is because our car insurance is too damn high. The two major parties, Democrats and Republicans, they have this knack to want to have power and control and access to our income on a daily basis. The two major parties do not repeal laws, they pass laws. Laws, 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 fees, license, taxes, permits, the whole 9 yards. Never repeal, 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 repeal. My campaign is to repeal the no-fault law. Along with that, the access to the politician, to our income by politicians. For them to dictate that we must go to a government school, at the same time tax us, even though we all want to go to the government schools, doesn't inspire freedom, in my opinion. Individual rights in the free market is not at a high premium for the two major parties, because they want to tell you at the government schools what your child should learn, where they should go to school, for how long, how many days, the hours, the whole 9 yards. The Democratic Party doesn't believe in homeschooling. And the Republican Party believes in telling you what you can and cannot do with your body. The Libertarians believe that what you own belongs to you, nobody else. Not a neighbor, not a company, or a country. If you believe in individual rights in the free market, vote for me, Greg Cresswell. Check out my website at gregcresswell.com. Check out the Libertarian Party of Michigan. Because we believe, as the question was put to Ron Paul, are you consistent? Yes or no? And we are consistent with individual rights in the free market.
Thank you for this opportunity. It's been a great discussion, but the reality is that I'm Willie Bell, running for State Rep District 2. When I look out in this audience here, and I look out in the city of Detroit and the Grosse Pointes, and I look at Detroit, and I look at the state of Michigan, you need to look at the candidate, the character of the candidate. I'm not looking for a job. I'm looking for opportunity to continue to serve. And I served this community for a long period of time. Even now, as elected official, I'm serving this community with a non-salary job. I'm committed, and I know the issues, and we outline the issues, but we must get beyond the dialogue. You need a strong voice, a person who's going to stand on his feet and going to address those issues and try to reach out and reach some type of understanding with others. We must be team players. We must get beyond the party concept. Back in the old days of politicians, they came together to reach some type of understanding. With term limits, we now have a conflict turnover. We don't reach that agreement. We don't reach that understanding. We don't reach that stage where we can respect people and get back to we the people. That's why I'm running for State Rep District 2 as Willie Bell, based on my record. That's why I'm running as Willie Bell. I'm an old book. I've been an old book. I will continue to be an old book. You can see where I'm coming from. I'm clear, I'm to the point. That's how I was raised, and that's why I'm proud to stand before you, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. We need more and more forums like that. We won't be dealing with names, we were dealing with the contents and the character of individuals. Thank you.
Mr. Tate.
First off, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this session, and you all in the audience for taking time out of your evening away from family and away from dinner. One thing that I am going to commit to is that I'm committing to bringing my experience to this role. So I know that no man or woman is an island. We draw our strength from others. I learned that not only in athletics, but I also learned that in the military, and as well in economic development, working with businesses and figuring out what's the best course of action for growth in their space. I also learned that not only in undergrad as well, and in grad school where I earned my MBA, as well as my master's in natural resources and environment. I think one policy issue that wasn't touched on, and I'm going to touch on it briefly, is climate change and environment. It's probably going to be the biggest public policy issue we're going to be facing here in the next coming years. So when we talk about working together, that's going to be a big focus because it's going to touch on everything else that we just talked about. Lastly, I just want to leave you with a story. I talked about service and sacrifice. A little bit about sacrifice is I live in the home that my parents first purchased in 1974. My father was a firefighter. One day in the 1980s, he went off to work and didn't come back home. He died in the line of duty. He left my mom and 3 kids. If it wasn't for the community around us, whether it's around church or around our family or around members, I would not be sitting here in front of you today. And that's, along with service, those are my values on why I'm running for this role. And I thank you for your time. Please feel free to reach out if you have any additional questions. Thank you.
Mr. Corker.
I can see right here, there is some good quality candidates up here. There really is, with a lot of great ideas. And I can't see any of us, if we were all sitting on a committee, that we couldn't work together. I'm just saying that. I really believe that. But I've been working since I was 13 years old, paying rent to my mother because I was from a broken home. I believe in the Constitution, like I said, but I also believe that if we as Americans don't get up and do what you guys are doing right now and participate, love your neighbor, honor God with everything you do and say, it doesn't matter who we vote for. If we're gonna get people politicians that can be bought, or politicians that will make laws that benefit their businesses or their clients, their pocketbooks, we're lost. I'm willing, and I think we should cut the salaries of guys like the representatives and the congressmen in half right off the bat. Cut our salaries in half, because we make more than the average person they'd make more than the average person in their district. When the district starts making more money, it's a different story, but they don't need to make more money than the average person in their district. Car insurance, put caps on it, vouchers for the schools, trades for these young men that are bored out of their mind in high school. Put a stop to crime so these women can walk the streets at 10 o'clock at night without fear. Put these guys that are in jail on minor crimes to work tearing down these buildings. working in the parks, whitewashing the graffiti off the walls, making Detroit beautiful again, and making Detroit a shining jewel like it was in 1962, where we had the highest average income and the highest standard of living in any place in this country. And I'm just a working man. I'm not educated, so.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. We wish to thank the candidates, the forum officials, and all of you for participating tonight. If you submitted a question and it was not asked, we encourage you to contact the candidates directly. I now turn over the microphone back to President Tom Wells.
Thank you, Rhonda. These forums are so gratifying to participate and to see the wonderful people that are willing to stand up and participate and be committed to public service. One of the things I want to point out, this election of August 7th, the primary, is that you only can vote for one party. We have here just the District 1 and 2 candidates for the state rep, but there are Wayne County candidates, there's senator candidates, and you want to make sure that you only vote for candidates for one party down the line. If you vote, if you like some senator who's a Democrat and a state rep who's a Republican, you have to choose which one to vote for. If you vote for them both, your ballot will be disqualified. So keep that in mind. In the November election, it doesn't matter. You can split your votes, but not in the primary. This forum will be broadcast on WMTV, the War Memorial Television, before the primary election on August 7th. We will also have a link to the forum on the Detroit and the Grosse Pointe League's Facebook pages and websites. The voter guide covering this and the other races is an online guide, votefor11.org, and is linked to our website. For the League of Women Voters, there's materials in the back that we have that are available. This is called Your Government Officials. It's a publication that we do every year that we think is very, very useful and helpful. It's certainly, and it's available in the libraries, and we have a whole bunch back there for 2017. There's also information here that you can get to find out about voting and the other candidates. Election day is on Tuesday, August 7th. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can verify your voting registration status by calling your city clerk or going to votefor11.org. There's that link again, or the Secretary of State website. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you, candidates, and good evening.